This is going to be an introduction into GP Power Tools, which was developed by myself. Quick introduction to myself. I am the owner and manager of Winthrop Development Consultants. I'm an MVP and a GPUG All-Star. I've been in the GP world since 1994. I did spend 13 and a half years of that with Microsoft. GP Power Tools was originally created while I was at Microsoft as the support debugging tool. When I left Microsoft, I was able to get the rights to it, rebranded it and re-released it in 2015. It's available for 2010 onwards. It's broken down into 3 modules. It has administrator tools, developer tools, and then database tools. And if you register any of those 3 modules, you get a set of system features. Administrator tools basically covers all of the things that make GP easier to use or easier to administer. And that includes things like the color coding of companies, working with security, rolling out dex.ini or launch file changes, simplifying troubleshooting, and remembering the state of any window or position of any window. The developer tools includes all of the scripting and triggering capabilities, and this allows you to work in multiple languages. So you can work in Dexterity, SQL, C# or VB.NET. You can build events, so you can trigger off pretty well anything within GP. You can also build custom report writer functions, custom URL drill downs, custom service-based architecture procedures without having to actually have anything else to deploy. The cool thing is anything you write with this is web client compatible and is deployed just by hitting save. You can also have the database tools, and those include the ability to copy small amounts of data between systems. It's quite useful for example, transferring security settings that you've set up on a test server to a live server. You can also use the database validation tool, which is a culmination of over 200 hours of development. After 13 years with Microsoft and seeing all of the upgrade cases, I wrote a tool that actually actively looks for all of the problems and finds and fixes them for you before you do upgrades. But it also allows you to easily migrate between servers or create test environments and recreates all your logins for you. We've also got a tool that will allow you to update passwords and password policies on bulk, so you don't have to go through each user. Much simpler than using the other methods that Microsoft normally provides. The system features include the ability to capture logs very easily, a single click, capturing screenshots of every open window, sending emails from inside Dynamics. That's useful on terminal server environments where they may not have a mail client installed. And also there is some dex.ini settings that you can change from within GP that just makes it easier to modify settings. One thing to note is that the features are broken down into user features and administrator features. They used to be called standard and advanced mode. Basically, user features are safe for any user to use, and administrator features it's either because they allow you to modify or view data directly, and those features are protected by a number of methods. One of them is just normal application security, but they also require the system password or an optional administrator password if you're using that. And they also require you to have DBO or system administrator privileges at the SQL level. When you install, you should be installing it on every single workstation. The data is all stored in SQL. It needs to be installed everywhere for everybody to get full access to it. It does use a shared folder to store the logs and other data that's been captured so that you don't have to actually go and visit a machine. As an administrator, I can just go to the shared folder and anything captured by the tools are recorded there. So the pricing, it has a base price of $100 for the system features, and then every module is $400. So basically it's either $500, $900 or $1,300 depending on whether you buy 1, 2 or 3 modules. It is an annual subscription, so that's the same price each year. There's no actual enhancement. So as a partner, you can get a free not for resale license. Customers can just install it and activate a 30-day trial period. That's the hold my puppy dog technique. Usually it's very, very rare for anybody who's actually started playing with the tools to want to give it back, and they will go and purchase it. So there's a GP Power Tools portal. Also on the downloads page is a great benefits presentation. That's well worth watching. It takes about 15 minutes to watch, and it goes through many of the features basically by describing a problem and showing how it solves that problem. Now, what I might do is we'll get into a little bit of a demo. People always like demos, and it's always when something can go wrong. So we've got GP 2018 open here, and we can go to the Power Tools area page. What I'm going to do is we'll just take you through sort of the situation where you've got a support problem. So one of the things that is normally going to happen when you've got some sort of support issue is the administrator or the support personnel are going to say to you, please provide screenshots of where you're at, what you had open, and provide that information to us. And now that process can actually take quite a bit of work, particularly if you've got a lot of windows open like I do now. So this is where Power Tools can come in very handy. You can just go to the Tools menu on any window and say capture screenshots. It lists all the open windows. You can then say please email that. And we go email. All right, and you'll see it's created an email. All of those screenshots are attached, and it also includes a system summary report, which I'll show you shortly. And we also have attached the system summary as a file. We've got the launch file, the dynamics.set, as well as the user level and system level dex.ini settings. So that's all attached for us to look at. And if we have a quick look at the system summary, you'll see that it includes a lot of information about the system. So I've got here the Power Tools version, then I've got the licensing information, all the modules that I've got registered. Scroll down a bit further. The login information, details about the Windows session that I'm actually running, the details about my machine, temporary folder, the SQL server details and the ODBC versions. And then it tells me about my companies. So it's telling me that how many companies I've got access to, and it gives me the details of the current company and system database I'm logged into, including permissions and logs and data sizes. Then we get onto the runtime engine. So this is all the information about the runtime session. It tells us what customizations I've got installed, what add-in DLLs I have installed, and then it lists all the dictionaries I've got installed with their versions and whether it can find the custom forms and reports dictionaries. So now all of that is provided to you, and then we get down to the bottom and it has a list of the attachments, and it's telling you whether these are original windows or alternate windows, and telling you what the files, each of the files are, and that includes both their technical and display names. So all of that was one click. As a support personnel or consultant of any sort, this sort of information, if you can't solve a case, knowing about the system like that, then you're going to have problems. So that solves it for you. Can you find that useful?
Yes, I would say so. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So now let me shut down a few of these windows. So now let's say you've got the actual problem, happens when I save my customer. I get some sort of error occurring. So, and they say to you, can you provide logs of that? So, the normal method of providing the log, is going to be exiting GP, going and changing the SQL logging settings, and then coming back into GP. The problem probably doesn't occur anymore because you've exited GP and come back. And you've got to go up to the point just before the error, manually clear the log, and then record the log, and then capture it afterwards, and then go and turn everything off. And if you're doing that while other users are logged into the same system, because you've modified the the dex.ini, it's turned on logging for them as well. And basically, it's a whole lot of work, and that only captured one log. Or with Power Tools, and what I might do is open up here so you can see. So it will capture, you can see the red switches at the moment. So if I just say turn on logging, I say start manual logging, I'm now capturing 5 different logs, not just the Dex SQL log. I'm also capturing the SQL profile trace, the dexterity script log, the dexterity script profile, and a macro recording of the actions. So I hit save, I say stop recording. Do I want to email them? Yes. And so now attached in this zip file is the macro recording of the user's actions. Then we've got the dexterity script log, which is showing all of the scripts that are called at the dexterity level and their parameters. We've also got the dexterity script profile, which shows each script, how many times it's been called and how long it's spent in there. That's actually perfect if you're troubleshooting performance issues, because it will actually pinpoint the exact script that's causing the problem. Then we've got the communication between dexterity and SQL, which is the dex SQL log, which most people know about. And then we've got the SQL trace, which is actually saying after it's got communicated to SQL, what actually happens. So this goes right from the front end of the macro right to the back end at the SQL level, and it's captured everything that's happened all through the entire system. And again, that was a single click, and I can just send an email. It's also been saved to my shared folder so that I can always just go and reference them from there as well if you don't want to email them. How's that for easy logging? The cool thing with that is that you don't have to change any dex.ini settings. You don't have to exit GP. You can just turn that on at any time, and that's just sitting there waiting. You just need to make sure that GP Power Tools is installed on all your workstations.
Is that just logging the local session, or is it logging everyone's session?
No, that is just logging the local session, which is all that you actually want. You don't want it interfering with anything else. So it just allows me to capture what's happening on my system, and it doesn't affect any other users. So if you use it on a terminal server, it doesn't affect anybody else or capture anybody else.
Okay. And the SQL profile, I guess, is scoped to just the current login?
Correct.
It's also possible to like have that turn on automatically or something, so you can troubleshoot login issues, right?
Okay, so troubleshooting a login issue is
or at
actually
least startup issues rather.
Yeah, so there's a couple of things. So while we're asking, so under dex.ini settings, I can turn this on just for the next login, and I can specify which of the 3 main logs I can actually capture. So that way it actually can capture data as you're logging in, and that's good if you've got some sort of login performance problem. There's also the ability using triggers to capture logs based on an event occurring, and that's actually what Power Tools was first created for, and I'll show you a demo of that in a little bit. Okay, so now I'm going to run another one of my GP sessions, and I'm going to log in as David. This is a quick demo on both the security aspect of things as well as the company color coding and a couple of the other features. So we'll point them out as we go through. So first you'll notice that this drop-down list, and in fact all the fields on this window have been stretched out to take the entire width of the window, so that when I've got a long company name I can actually read all of it. So I'm logging into my test company here. Now I'm getting a warning that my password is due to expire. And if you've ever had a password expire during a session, you'll know how much damage that can cause, because you can get kicked out mid-session and that can leave orphaned records. Not a good thing. So this is giving you a warning, and if I say yes, it would take me to the location so I can actually change my password. This here is actually just a bit of custom code that's running. It was a customization I wrote for someone that said that they didn't want the users changing to a different area page before the system had fully logged in. And that's because when you go to the area page like sales, it shows everything until the security has cleaned up and removed all of the options that are not available. So that was a little customization that popped open that window. So this window here is standard GP that's telling me that I'm running in a test company. You can easily turn it on and off using Power Tools, but it is a standard GP feature. Now, one of the things to note is the lime green color. This is in a test company, so I'm getting nice warnings that I am in a test company. You might see this window pop up a few times. This is actually a new feature in Power Tools that allows me to, if I've got more than one window, like an alternate or a modified window, or different versions of windows, so I can have the original and a modified, or the original and an alternate. Normally, you're only allowed to select the one that you can use. This window allows me to actually decide at runtime exactly which window I want to open. So I'm just going to open the standard window as an example, but you'll see that window and it pop up in a few places, and it's just can be set within Power Tools. It's a feature called Dynamic Product Selection. So now at this stage, what I'm going to do is, let's say I want to actually create a return, and there's this option sitting here on the menu. And when I select that option, I get the "you don't have security privileges to open this window" error. Now, what you will notice is that Power Tools is extending that error and actually explaining why you don't have access. And it's basically saying, I don't have access to this SVC RMA window called create return, and it's in the field services dictionary. Now, I've seen people looking for this window and not being able to find it anywhere because they thought it would be a Dynamics window, and it's not actually part of Dynamics, and it's not in Sales Series. The other thing that happened is the security profiler has been told to open automatically when it sees an error. So just before the error occurs, it opens and it captures that event. So while the security profile is open, anything I do within GP that accesses security gets logged in here, and you can actually see whether it was access denied, access granted. So here we can see access denied and create return. I can now email that or export that to my for my administrator. So I'm just going to hit save. There we go. My administrator now can come and have a look at my logs and see what they can work out. So now if I go back down to here, you'll see that I've got multiple sessions of GP open. Because Power Tools is one, color coding, but also two, it's labeling the sessions. You can see it's adding to the top of the session the username and company. So I can actually see that this one's SA. So I open up the SA one. I go into the security profiler. I hit import. I pull in the log that was just recorded on the first, which is this one here. And I can now see exactly the same error that was shown by on the other system. So now I can see the error. I can actually, if I scroll across, it says it's in the test company, it's for David. So what I can now do is I can just hit security and say, show me the security information. And you'll see here that it is showing me that David does not have access. If I expand that, he doesn't have access in either company. DynSA does have access, and so does SA. And that's grayed out because they have access because they're power users. But also you'll see that lesson user 1 and 2 are grayed out because they don't actually have access to the test company. They've only got access to Fabricam. So you can see on this side, on the left-hand side, it says no access granted, and it's telling me where that's coming from. So it's create return. You can see it's in the field services dictionary. So now the question is, how do I get access? So if I just expand the system level, this shows me how I can give them access. I could make them a power user, which is not going to happen. I can make them a super user. Now, the super user is something that is maintained automatically by Power Tools. It is the equivalent of a power user. However, unlike power user, which bypasses security, the super user actually is auditable because it is just a security task with access to everything in the product. I can also give them access to this TRX FSS RTO1 task, and I can do that by making them giving them either access to the RT agent or the RT manager roles. So if I double click on David, pull this up, find the RT agent role, and give them access, hit save, and if I come over here and just hit redisplay, you'll see now it shows that the access is granted, and that it's granted because they have access to RT agent, and you can see they now have access in the test company, but not in Fabricam. So I can now go back to my user and say, okay, try again. So send them an email back or call them. They come back here, they say create return, bang, it works. So you see how easy that is to make changes and understand the security model. All right, now what happens if the security change needs the user to log out and log back in because it's changed something on the menus? Well, you don't actually have to log out and log back in. You can just come up to the security profiler and say refresh the application navigation, and that will actually refresh it and update the menus so that you don't have to actually exit. So now what I'll do is I'm going to actually come back and change that, take this away, because otherwise I screw up my next demo. So while I'm in here, you can also actually see information. So let's say the auditor is coming to you and says, show me what somebody has access to. So we can basically come down and we can expand here, and I'll be able to see what tasks and roles that user has access to. Actually, we'll do it in the test company. And then we can actually expand that, and it shows you all the tasks for that one. So now if I actually click on, let's say, this task here, and I say show resources, it will open up a window that is showing me all of the resources that make up that task. So now if I click on the AP Clerk, I got a list of all the resources that are in that role. So that's everything that makes up all of these tasks all together in the role. If I actually click on David, this is all of the access that is for David currently logged in as the test company. And I've got this information. I can show the series. If I want to, I can say show the tasks and roles, and that will actually add in how they got access by showing you the tasks and roles that gave them access. Once you got this report on the screen, you can quite happily export it out to an email and then send that off to your auditor, and they can then import that into Excel and play with it to their heart's content. So it solves all of your auditing problems for you. We've also got the ability in here, if I want to, I can view access by roles and tasks. So if I come in here and say access it, hold on, we do it by security role here. You can see the ones where they've got a plus sign means that somebody's actually using it. So if I was to make a change to AP Clerk, I know it's going to affect David. If I make a change to a particular task, I can see who's using those tasks, and I can see then, who it's going to affect. So you need to find one with a plus. There we go. And you'll see that David's using that one. So this also, you can actually look at what SQL roles a user has. So I can just show in here, if I go into the SQL roles, you'll be able to actually see. So it shows me that SA is a sysadmin, while David is has access to Dyn Group. So you can actually check all of your SQL roles and tasks. Basically, this is a multi-dimensional view into security, and you can use it to find any information you want. Moving on from that, though, is a situation where we've got a user, and if you've got, let's say, two users with the same security tasks and roles, and you need to take something away from one user but not affect anybody else. So I don't know if you've had to do that, but if you had, you realize that the only way you can do that with the standard security model is to duplicate all of the tasks and roles involved. And that could be multiple tasks and multiple roles, because if the access is granted by more than one role, you've got to deal with that. And you've got to duplicate all of those, take away access to the one item that you want, and move new user to the duplicated roles, and all the duplicated roles to use the duplicated tasks. And over time, you get a whole heap of duplicated tasks and roles with no easy way of telling what's different between them. And what was a really good security model with tasks and roles has now become an administrative nightmare. Or we go into deny-based security. So PowerTools is adding another level of security. If you look at Windows or SQL, they have a grant layer and a deny layer. Well, GP's got the grant layer, but it doesn't have the deny layer unless you've got GP PowerTools. So let me come in initially. I'm going to go into this enhanced security window, and I can come in through the menus or through the area pages. And let's say that I don't want David to be able to do, it's not really transactions, we've got cards. I don't want him to be able to modify anything in customer maintenance. So I can select customer maintenance here, and you can see at the moment he has access to customer maintenance, and now he doesn't. Simple as that. It's basically now access has been denied. Now, David could also be really, really bad at doing sales returns. So I could come down here and say, well, let's go and modify security object. I can come in and say document access, sales, and say I don't want him doing returns in either company. Bang, done. Now, right now, David does not have access to payroll, but let's say at some stage in the future, it might happen, but I never want David to be able to get into employee maintenance. So I'm just going to deny those now. So basically, regardless of what your tasks and roles say, the deny layer sits on top and will block out access to any particular thing that you've selected. Now, we can take it another level as well, is that there are some items in GP that you cannot remove from the menus. So normally, if you deny access to a window, that window will be hidden off the menus. But there are some items where the window itself can never be removed by security and therefore cannot be hidden. A classic example of that is if I go to Tools and Setup, there's this Setup Checklist window, and that one can never be hidden by security. A lot of administrators want to get rid of windows that they don't want their users going into. So GP PowerTools says, well, let's hide it instead. I've hidden that window now. If I want to get a list of what's been hidden or denied, I can come up to the security hidden and denied windows. So we'll pull them both up. And we'll change it to all users, all companies. All users, all companies. And here's actually a list of what's been denied. So you can see employee maintenance, customer maintenance, and the sales returns have been denied. And that's been done in both the sample company and the test company. And you can also see down here, these are the items that have been hidden. And I can export these out and I can print them as well. Now, if I was to look at the security, so let's just go back into menus, cards, sales, and customer maintenance, and I look at the security information for that, you'll actually see that it does say here that access has been denied by deny-based security. So all of the reporting tools and within Power Tools, they all understand deny-based security and they will show it accordingly. Now, if you've got a user who's, you always get one in an organization, the power user who understands how the dynamics.set works, and they think, I know that Power Tools is doing the deny-based security. If I remove Power Tools from the launch file, I'll get access to the areas that I'd been denied. Wrong. The security is being applied at the server level, and once applied, whether or not the Power Tools is installed, you will not be able to get access. The hidden bit does require Power Tools to be there, but the actual security part doesn't. That said, Power Tools should be installed everywhere. So now I'm just going to go and, so my next demo works, I'm just going to actually say mark all and delete these. And delete. You'll notice that it now says access to original has been granted again. Okay. So do you think that's going to save you time and effort?
Yeah.
Definitely.
Cool. So I mentioned the dynamic product selection, so I might as well just quickly pop that one open for you. So this here is the dynamic product selection window. You basically base it off a alternate modified ID, and then you can come in here and you can choose particular windows. So for example, customer maintenance, I've got a couple of different windows, and I can actually say, all right, so by default, you can see the main one is the original window, but I can actually say, allow me to choose. So if I go into, let's say, financial accounts, this has got a lookup on it. So you'll see that by default, it's running the lookup in the alternate window in Smart List, but I can actually say, well, allow me to select, and I can turn on which ones I want the selection for. And with this, when you've turned it on, by default, it affects all users, but you can then actually come in and say, well, I want to control which users or companies get that choice, which you can do, or you can also say, let them have a choice, but then the choices offered, I can come in here and I can actually select which users get offered each particular choice. So you can turn it on and off for a window, and you can turn the choices on and off on a per user or company basis. You can also rename these windows. So at the moment, I've got, let's say, we'll call this one, instead of Smart List, we could actually say nice looking and call N for nice looking. And then we'll call this one ugly and put a U. And so now if I actually preview this, you'll see that you get the window. That's what it's going to come up and say, do I want nice looking or ugly looking? If I actually save that, and I go to cards, financial accounts, when I open the window, I get a choice. Do I want the nice one? There's the nice one. Or do I want the ugly one? And there's the ugly one. And now the cool thing about this is that it also is dealing with all of the triggers that are involved. So there are triggers running when you run the one that's running inside of Smart List. And my code is telling Smart List when it opens this one, even though security has not been changed, Smart List now believes that the security is pointing to the original window instead. So it avoids basically the illegal address errors that you get when you're accessing a window that doesn't actually have the fields on it that the triggers are expecting. Another feature that's fairly new to Power Tools is managing your licenses. Let me just show you user activity tracking. So under administrator settings, we have the ability to turn it on, and we can ask it to keep records for a certain amount of time. So once it's actually active, we can come in here, see if we can get some more data. And this shows me the current users. It shows me details. Now this is capturing statistics, so it will grow to the size of your number of users times your number of companies, but it won't grow any bigger than that. But it's tracking how many times I've logged in, my current login, when my last login was, when my previous login was. And it also is recording information about the automatic logout feature. So when the automatic logout was last triggered, did they cancel the dialog? Did it actually exit the company? And so on. So if you are worried about your users and you've got only so many licenses, you can actually track the maximum users and actually see, sort it by maximum. You can see that if I point to get the tooltip, so on the 23rd of August and on the today, I hit some maximums, but the other times I've only hit single users. So this is actually tracking exactly when I hit my maximum. And if I click on any particular line, it will show me who was logged on at that time. So this is going to allow you to easily track your license usage and see how close to your maximum, or if you're hitting your maximum number of licenses. So to help control your licenses, we've got the automatic logout. So let me come back to the administrator settings, and you'll see here I've got this automatic logout. This is completely harmless in the fact that it will log you out, but it can only log you out in a graceful manner. It will not orphan data, it will not orphan sessions. It doesn't actually use anything that will actually cause problems with the system. It's completely safe. It does the equivalent of a file exit. It does have one primary level of logging out, and that can also be controlled on a per user company basis. And with this, you could actually say, well, so that's turning on for SA, but because of the checkbox, it means everybody but SA has this. So now SA will not be included. So if you've got your financial controller who wants to sit in GP the whole time, fine, you can exclude them from the automatic logout. We also have a second level of logout where we can actually say, well, as our licenses get below 10% available, let's get a bit more aggressive with our logout and log them out after 30 minutes or whatever other setting you want. We've got a few different settings here. The one down the bottom is probably the best one here, is the ability to save changes on an open window. So basically, if you've got a window open and you've made some changes but you haven't saved them, this will actually attempt to save that for you. As long as all the required fields have been entered, it will actually save that and close the window gracefully. And so then when it attempts to exit and log you out, it should be able to do gracefully without getting a do you want to save, discard, cancel error. If it does attempt to log out and there is a change that cannot be saved, it will just sit with that do you want to save, discard, cancel. The other thing is it does have a dialog which will sit there. It's optional, but you can have it, and it sits there for the last minute and counts down the last minute. It actually props that dialog to the front, or if it can't get to the front, it will flash on your toolbar to say I'm here. But it will just sit here and count down, and eventually it will log you out. If you've got a user who keeps hitting cancel and it does get recorded when a user cancels it, it gets recorded, you can actually come in and say, well, I want to disable it, but I want to disable it only for David. So I can say basically everybody except David will get the dialogue, and David doesn't get the warning, it just logs them out. So that's the automatic logout. Now, that is still only part of the picture. That's basically trying to free up your licenses. But the other thing that uses up your licenses is users who come in and log into multiple companies and chew up all your licenses. So we've got the ability now with login limits to control exactly what users can access. So I can actually say the default is that a user is only allowed to log into one session. I could possibly say that I've got one that's exempt. Okay, there we go. So DynSA is exempt from that limit, but I could say that lesson user 1, well, we'll use David actually, is allowed to override that, and he can have 2 sessions. Or I could actually say that David, might take that one out of there. and say that he's always allowed into this company but not allowed into another company. So that way, even if they've got only one session allowed, if he tries to log into that company, it will always let him in. You can also, on a company level, I can actually swap to company mode, and I can specify how many users are allowed in a particular company. Now, the advantage of that, we had a system where we had two companies, big company and a small company, and what was happening was all the users in the big company were using up all the licenses, and the users in the small company were never able to log in. So with this option here, they were able to actually go and choose and set aside some licenses for that small company by limiting how many licenses the big company could actually use. So you've got a whole load of different options in the way you can limit this, but you can basically prevent users accessing too many things at the same time. And if you want to know what people have been using at the same time, that's where the user activity log and the maximum user counts tracking will tell you exactly who was logged in at what time. So you can actually see, this user was running multiple sessions. So you can start locking it down and limiting the logins and controlling your licenses that way. All right. So between those features, you've basically got full control over your licensing, and you can basically make best use of the licenses you have, or when to be able to say you need to order more licenses. So an administrator using Power Tools that I know was able to actually show the graphs and show how that they were every weekday they were hitting their maximum limits, and he was able to use that as evidence to get management to buy more licenses. Troubleshooting, dictionary control. So one of the things that you do get when you've got support issues is the support team are going to say to you, we think it's a customization. Can you disable all your VBA, all your third-party add-ins, all your Visual Studio Tools customizations, and basically prove that it's going wrong in core GP? So normally the steps to do that are quite significant. You would need to modify the dynamics.set launch file and remove products from that. And if you mess up that, you can basically break Dynamics. That as well, if you're doing that on a terminal server, is going to affect other users. Getting rid of VBA basically normally means you need to go back to the original version of the window. So you're going to go change security, and then you have to remember to go back and fix it afterwards. Or you actually have to delete VBA, the .VBA files, or with Visual Studio Tools add-ins, you might need to go and actually remove them from the add-ins folder. Basically, it's a whole lot of work when, if you've got Power Tools, you can just come in here and say, well, I want to disable, let's say, Smart List. So if I come in here and I say disable Smart List triggers and apply that, now when I open this window, you'll see that the window's still opening the Smart List window, but none of the triggers are running, which is why we got the A and the buttons that are not quite right. So, but then you could say, well, I can do that if you know about it with the customize and the customization status window. You can come in here and you can change triggers, and you can see that it shows here is disabled. So this is using the same functionality, except it does have the ability to remember the state after login. So you can actually say, not just this session, but when I come back, I want it to stay disabled. And if I do mark after login, I can actually then specify which users and companies. So if I'm just testing on one particular user, I can actually come in and I can make sure it's only disabled for them and not disabled for everybody. If I actually come back and if I apply that, you'll see now the window's back to normal. All right, but I can say, well, I want to disable the alternate or the modified, or I'm just going to say both, and apply that. So now, if there are any alternate or modified windows for this product, they won't be used, and it will use the original. So you can see here, the originals are running. You'll notice that it doesn't fire the triggers. It's using the same technology that the dynamic product selection uses, so it disables the triggers, but only the triggers that affect this lookup, unless I actually come in and say disable all the triggers as well. So, but if I disable both, then I've basically taken that product, the effect of that product out of the system, and you'll be able to actually test and see whether that product is causing your problem. So let me turn this back on, apply that, and when we come back in, you'll see it's back to normal. Now, that change of which window to use does not affect security. Security was not changed. Security still said that you were running the Smart List version of the window. However, when it opens, it gets overridden by Power Tools that says, no, we're going to be opening the original. And if I had the security profiler running, you'll actually see it says that it's been overridden and it's by dictionary control. So it tells you why it's changed it from the original. All of this allowed me to make changes and disable products without having to actually exit GP. So you can actually use this. Now, if you've got a problem that's occurring, if you exit GP, often the problem doesn't occur when you come back because the state has been reset. So this allows you to test all of that while you're in GP. I can also reorder products in the launch file. So I can actually move them up and down. This will affect the current workstation only, but it allows me to change the order. That can be handy if two products are clashing. Allows you to put one product before the other. We also have the options here to disable VBA and disable Visual Studio Tools. These two settings do require you to log back in, but when you come back in, the effects of VBA and the add-ins will be removed. And you can set that to only do it for the one login. So you can just turn it on, enable it for one login, log out, log back in, and now you've got those things disabled and you can test without those. If somebody else logs in onto the same system afterwards, it's back enabled again. Okay, let's say we've got a problem with we've got users or customers that are getting put on hold. We don't know how that's happening. So I'm going to open up resource information. So now, if you've ever used the resource descriptions, this is resource descriptions on steroids with many, many other features. So right now I've got it in form and window mode, and I've asked it to show me my currently selected window. So now if I open a window, and we pop open and I show both. Actually, I might just use this option. So on Power Tools, there's this option Raise All Windows, which is added by Power Tools. While we're here, there's a Find a Window option. So if I just want to get to customers, if I just type in custom, you'll see everything that refers to has the word custom in it is here. And I can just double click and open up the window I want. So that's just with Control F. Raise All Windows basically brings everything that's currently open to the foreground. And the other one you've got here is a calculator, which actually is finger friendly if you want to as well. But you can have a calculator within GP. That's handy on terminal server or web client environments where you might not actually have a Windows calculator available to you. And it does allow you to cut and paste within the application, which is quite handy. So you'll see I'm on this window. And as I tab through the window, if you watch down on the right-hand side, you'll see where it's got the field information. As I tab through, it's showing me exactly what that is. Let's say I'm actually saying I want to go and understand what hold is. So if I click on hold, you'll see, hold is called hold. So, but let's say UPS zone. Actually, here it's called UPS zone. If you were in an Australian install, it's called carrier zone. And I think one that's called zip code is actually postcode in Australia. So sometimes the names don't match. This is a US install right now, but the names don't always match what there is on the window. So having this ability to actually check is quite handy. Now, I want to know where this field actually is. So, where is it stored? If I click on associated tables, it shows me a list of all of the tables associated with this form currently filtered to the ones having the hold field. So this is all of them, and that's the hold field. So I know this is on the customer master. Now, if I want to know where else hold is, that's what this one was. This is showing me all the other places that have that hold field on them. So the customer master is the one I want. Now, if I double click on that, I can actually now see the details of the customer master. I can display the keys for the customer master. If I open up the lookup here, I can actually see the customer master table. And so this is all of the fields in that table with their physical names, their technical names, and all their data type information. And this what you see on the screen here can be exported as well. So now if I want a list of every single table in the product, I can go into all tables for all series and go into all table groups, and that will give me a list of everything, and that shows in here, and then I can export that out, and then I can have that in an Excel spreadsheet, and that gives me the data of every single table in the product with its technical name and display names. So you can have that as useful information as a reference. Okay, this window also, if you just know something, so for example, if we go back to forms and I type in, custom, you'll see here, this is a list of every single window in the product that has custom or customer written on it. And I can then, if I click on one of them, it will show me the actual details of that window. So basically any one bit of information you know. So it was a table with a physical name of RM001 something. So here are all the RM001 something tables, and I can actually just go through and look at them. So basically any one bit of information that you know, the resource information window pulls it up. Interestingly enough, this is expandable. There is actually more information on the right-hand side. If you were to scroll across, you don't actually have to just be limited to what you see on that in that window. So I know that this is the customer maintenance window, and I know that it's in the customer master table. What I'm trying to find out now is how that hold is getting selected. So I'm going to turn on my automatic triggers. I've got a couple of triggers set up already, so these ones should be automatic start. And you'll see here, there are now triggers running. I've got the cust hold 1 and cust hold 2 triggers running. So let me go back to cards, sales, customer. So the triggers are running. And when the hold gets turned on, I've got one trigger that's running on the window level and one that's running on the table level. So when I turn on hold, the window level one has been told to throw up a dialog. It's also capturing the logs that led up to this. More importantly, when I hit save, it's going to actually capture a whole load of things. It's going to keep a track of the data in the table, the record that's saved. It's also going to capture screenshots. So it happens fairly quickly, but you'll see a whole load of different windows open and things happen. And there we go. Okay, so here's my screenshots. This is all the open windows and the system summary report, as you saw before with the screenshot. So that's basically being captured and is emailed off. Now I've got it so it shows me these before it sends them, but you can actually just ask it to automatically send. So you don't even, the user does not have to see that the data has been emailed. When it comes to emailing, you are able to email through the Outlook client, also directly through SMTP, which is probably the easiest way, because that way you don't have to enter any credentials, or through Exchange Web Services, which does require credentials entered once. Okay, I've also got the log of what happened. So here it's actually saying that the trigger's fired. It said that the values changed from 0 to 1. It's captured all the logs and saved them, but it's also attached them here and it's emailed that off to the administrator. So all of that happened just by me changing that, and you can see here the logging is running, the green's on. So when I hit save, the trigger's fired the second time, but because the condition wasn't met, it wasn't set to true, they didn't actually do anything. So let me turn off the triggers. What happens if I know that this is happening on this window and I don't want logging running all the time? I only really need logging running when it's in that window. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn on some non-logging triggers, and the main ones I'm looking for are this cust hold 3 and 4. So now if you watch, okay, should be able to, okay, so watch the red bars over there. When I open the sales window, the logging starts, and when I close the window, I will actually do something for you. If I move this window and bring it over here, now close it. When I reopen the window, you'll see that it's actually remembered where I want that window to be. That's another feature within Power Tools, that it can remember the state and size of any window so that you can actually have them on a per user basis open exactly where you want them. So another ability of the scripting capabilities of Power Tools is self-service scripts. So if I actually pull up Project Setup and I pull up the customer example, customers. So this is a very simple example of the query. There it is. And the query basically says, let me just make this a bit bigger. Options. Okay, so it's got a select statement here, and that's basically saying select the customer. And you'll notice that it's using a combination of physical names, but also technical names. So for a dexterity developer, I know this is customer name. So it allows me to use a combination of it. It's also using some funny characters here, which are actually placeholders for parameters. So if I open this parameter list, you'll see here I can actually define multiple parameters of various data types. including lookups, and ask it to ask me a question. So when I execute the script, see, it asks me the question. I can change I've got default values in here, but I can change them. And if I hit OK, it will run the script, and you can see now it's converted all of those technical names into physical names, and it runs the script. It's also popped in the parameters. I can use this to perform any actions at SQL level. So let's say you've got some sort of script that you run on a regular basis. You know, oh, please, this customer's messed up again. Can you, administrator, please run this script? Well, rather than having to ask the administrator to do it, I can actually publish the script. So I can mark it as published, and I can have it on the window here. So this is the SQL executor window. I cannot see or change the script, but I can execute it. I get my parameters and I can see the results. So this way allows you to share self-service scripts. And the other thing that's cool with this is if you do publish a window, you can then specify which users it's published to. What happens if, you know, that needs the user to actually go into the SQL executor to find it? Or what I can do instead with I turn this project back on, so let's start the project, you'll see there's the trigger running. If I open up cards, sales, customer, you'll see that I have the additional. I can say execute query. There it's now coming up, and I get the result set. Now, here's the cool thing with this is with these result sets, I can actually perform actions based on the result set with what we call a SQL goto. So I've got this goto here. These can be programmed to do anything you wish. So right now, if I double click on one of these, it's going to take me to the first one, which is to open that in the customer maintenance window. In fact, if I close the customer maintenance window, you'll see it will reopen the window and go to that customer. But I can also perform an action on multiple ones. So I can say, you know, click, 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 and then perform some action on those multiples. And you can see, I can see what those multiple ones are. So right now it's just giving me a list, but whatever action you want. So a good example is on one of the item inquiry windows, one of my administrators put a query that allows you to actually look at all of the bins for an item, and then he can actually show you the quantity in them. Then he can sort, do a column sort and select all the ones with 0 in them. He can then highlight those bins and basically run a goto, and it deletes all the bins that are now empty. And it does that by driving the dynamics windows to actually open up the bin maintenance and delete it. But he was able to clean up his inventory bins in a few minutes just by automating it all with SQL gotos, the SQL query, and then running the script to drive the interface. So if I go back to the project, you'll see here that the gotos themselves are just scripts that you can run. You need to just put your code in here. So here's the standard code for opening a window and changing to that record. So basically you can just use a little bit of code in here and make it do anything you want. Let me pop open a customization for you. So I'm going to stop all the triggers. And so this one here is vendor UDF. It's my current project, so it opened automatically to that. But what it is, we'll start the project. So we've got some triggers running here. If I go to purchasing and bring up my vendor, if I bring up the original window, you'll see there's your vendor maintenance and nothing untoward or different is happening. But if I reopen that window and this time I say to use the modified version of the window, so it's B, you'll see that it has this additional field on the window. And if I pull up a record, okay, last demo we did was Tech Conference. I should change this now because I'll be showing people things at Summit. If I hit save, you'll see that it saved it. So now this is a modified window. This is a local field that's been added. Now normally you'd use VBA to script this, but VBA doesn't work on the web client, and they've also had issues with VBA with some of the latest Office 365 updates where VBA gets broken. This is using Power Tools to do what VBA can do. You also see that I've added this protected dialog up here. I get this, you cannot delete a protected record. So basically, if I actually ask it to delete, Power Tools has actually triggered on the modal dialog, which is something that Dexterity can't do, but Power Tools can. It also has the ability to trigger on modifier added fields and be able to read and write from modifier added fields. Again, something that Dexterity can't do, but Power Tools can. So this basically allows me to replace VBA code. So instead of using VBA to handle that. I've just got the read event, the delete event, so that will delete the records, and I've got the write event. There's the protected event. There's what happens when you open a modal dialog. So basically all the scripts in here are dexterity-based scripts that are running against the modified window and allowing me to use that instead of VBA. Now, the cool thing about this is once I hit save, it's deployed. There's no visiting machines. There's no copying files around. There's no having to update it when there's new versions of GP. There's no updating. There's no deployment needed. If you do want to write this on a separate system, you can then just use import and export. And once you import it into your live system, it's available to all users without immediately. Now, if you don't want it for all users, you can control the number of users by setting the triggers and specifying who has access. Or for example, if they don't have access to this modified window, the triggers don't run. All right, so let me give you a glimpse at the database tools. Let me close some of this stuff down. Let's unregister all the triggers. And I'll get rid of David. Don't need him for now. Okay, so if we go to the database tools, which are down here, and we go to the database validation tool. So this is the 200 hours plus of development. Basically, this is looking at my system and finding all the problems. Now, right now, everything's looking good, lots of green ticks. But I have this lovely script, which is this one here, which basically will screw up the system. So let's run this again and redisplay. And you'll notice now I've got quite a lot of problems. So basically, database validation looks for these problems and allows me to fix them. So if I just start running across this menu and I say fix users, you'll see here everything that's enabled is because there's actually something wrong. Right now, it doesn't have a SQL Server login for DynSA, so I'm going to create that. The DynSA is not the owner of the databases, so let's enable that. I don't have a SA user created at the GP level, and I don't have the access, so it's going to create those for me. I do have references in my GP tables to a test company, but that test company doesn't actually exist at the SQL level, so I'm going to ask PowerTools to clean that up. That's like the clear company script from Microsoft, but easier and better to use. So down at now at the user level, it's actually saying, well, I can see these users at the GP level, but they don't exist at SQL. So I'm going to say, well, let's keep lesson user 2, but these 2 test users, I don't need them anymore. Go and remove all the references. So then I can also, this is an option here, is when I can send an email when passwords get changed. You can actually also change the text. I've also got a CC email address. So now for this, it needs to know the email address for the user. And that is actually specified on a additional window. I might pop it open in a little bit for you. But when you edit the user, you can actually see the additional information. So I can automatically generate passwords, or I can manually put one in. So I'm going to leave it on automatically generate. I'm going to enforce password policy, enforce the expiration and the next change. I'm going to clean up any rubbish records at a company access table, make sure that all the users belong to Dyn group. And if there are any missing database users in the company access table, they'll get added in. So if I hit process, okay, you probably didn't hear it, but there was a email sending noise. If I print this report to the screen, you'll see a couple of things happening just there. One is here's the report with the password, and it's saying that it's emailed. The second one is you probably noticed that the screen output window moved and was made bigger. PowerTools remembers the size and state of the screen output window as well. So you can position it and size it how you want. So you'll see now I've got lots of green ticks. All those problems are fixed. So if I come into fix utilities, this is looking for junk data in the Dynamics utilities tables, references to products that are not installed, or references to databases that don't exist. So we've got down here, there's a product that's not installed. And if I show missing databases, this is references to databases that don't exist. So I can basically ask it to clean up all that information and just hit process. And getting rid of that junk means that when you're doing your upgrade, it's not going to look for things that it shouldn't be looking for, and you won't get an upgrade failure. I can also look at the account framework. So here it's looking at the account framework on each of the companies. It's showing us the actual size of the table field and how much has been used in each company. But you'll see my application is set matches that, but in my Dynamics database, the settings are too high. You can see it's got an exclamation mark and it's saying there's a problem here. So I can go two ways with this. I can fix the system database, which is what I'm going to do, but I can actually go the other way and say, well, let's synchronize to Dynamics and make that the standard. We'll then fix the application. And then in my next stage, when I actually look at table structures, it will make the tables match the application, which means that I can actually use this as a side effect, but I can use this to increase my account framework just by running this tool, and it will actually fix all the tables for you. So I'm going to hit process. All right, so it's fix the account frameworks. So if I look at fixed tables, at the moment, there's nothing in there. It's telling me that I need to use process. So if I run process, this is now looking at the dictionaries and at SQL, and it's identified all of the tables that it's found in both Dexterity and SQL. So these are the tables that it's found in both. So it says, okay, I've got a definition and I found the table. There you can have some missings. I don't know if we don't have any missings, but you can have exemptions. So these are some of the tables that are marked as exempt, which means we know that these tables exist in the database, but we are not actually interested in finding a matching record in a dictionary. So they're just marked as exempt. You can change the exemption list, you can add records to it. So if I clicked on something here, I can actually remove it from the exemption or add it to the exemptions. Okay. So based on, I'm going to turn that off. So for performance purposes, we're just going to have a look at what's in Dynamics, and I'm going to say validate. So now this is actually looking at those tables that exist in both and comparing the structures. And it's going to look for table errors where the structures don't match. So I get a report to this, which does, I can bring it to the screen. It has all the information, but I'm not going to actually look at it. I'm going to cheat and just come down here and it will show me, okay, so I've got structure correct. So all these guys in this list here, they're all good, no problem. We've got incorrect duplicates. So this is where it can find more than one table definition for a table. One of them works and one of them doesn't. So that this is actually saying, well, this here must be an old definition. And in fact, if you look at the name, you can see it's a version 6 definition for one of the tables. But if I look at structure incorrect, you can see it's found a couple of tables with problems. If I click on the table and say show structure errors, you can see this one, Dexterity says the form length should be 79, but SQL has it at 99. And if I click on this one, you'll see it's got a couple of other errors where Dexterity says it should be 5, but SQL's got them as 9. So if I now go into fixed tables, you'll see if the table is empty, I can just drop and recreate it, which is really easy. And so I just can select that. If the table has data in it, I can actually ask the system to back up the data, drop and recreate the table, and restore the data. It's also noticed that there's some tables or procedures that don't have access to dying groups, so it's offered to fix that for me. And the other one is if I asked it, I can actually see empty tables that are missing from Dexterity. So if I used to have Project Accounting installed, but I've uninstalled it, any of the empty tables for Project Accounting could show up in this list, and I can actually remove them. If they've got data in, they won't show up in the list because we don't want to lose data. But you can use this to clean up products that have been installed but never used. So if I hit process, so that's now fixed those. And if I exit the window, you'll see I get a report of all the changes it's made. So these are all the different things it was doing. I also have a really cool option down here, which is new to the latest builds, is SQL login maintenance. And on this window, I can actually see how many days someone's got before their expiry. I can see which ones have got password policies enabled. I can actually select users and I can reset their passwords. I can reapply security policies, or I can change their status. So I'm active or less than user or inactive. So you can do that from here. Now, if I double click on David, you'll see it opens up the user setup, and underneath it opened up the GP Power Tools additional information window, which allows me to specify things like what the email address is for that user. I can also specify their employee record. So it tells me in this particular company, their employee record is here. I can specify their default warehouse. That actually is the location of where they're working, but this is their default warehouse. or default site. And this is used when you open up SOP, POP, or inventory windows. It populates the default warehouse automatically. You've also got these 6 user-defined fields that you can define. You can set up what prompts you want, but you could have this as like work start date, work end date, or whatever information you want. You've got 4 strings and 2 dates that you can fill in with whatever you want. All right. So that basically gives you a fairly good overview of what GP Power Tools can do. I would highly recommend that you pop over to the Winthrop website and have a look. If you go to products, GP Power Tools, and download section, you'll see at the bottom here is this benefits presentation. This presentation, you should run it, get all of your customers to have a look at it. It basically will show you all the different things that you can see within Power Tools. Okay, so it starts off, this is actually the presentation that we use when we're at conferences, but it takes you through Power Tools, skip a bit, and how it solves your pain points. So it tells you you need logs, this is how you can do it. You need screenshots, this is how you can do it. So it shows you basically all the different things. If you've got really high resolution screens and you've got tiny fonts, this is how you fix it. So it just goes through and shows you all the different things that can go wrong. Emailing from support. It takes about 15 minutes to run, but shows you a quick summary of what's in Power Tools. It's not everything, but it's, if you go through that list and you can't find something in there that you want, I'll be very surprised. Okay, so if you want to have a play with this, please just go and download the code, install it on your systems. I think you guys already signed up as a partner, so you'll get the NFR keys downloading automatically. If your customer wants to have a play, they can install it. They just need to enter in their details and follow the on-screen instructions to register a 30-day trial period. That's full function of the product for 30 days. I'm pretty sure that once they've played with it, they're not going to want to give it back. So if you don't have any other questions, then we can be done for the night.
Hey, Dave, I have one quick question. When will you be ready for the latest version of Microsoft Dynamics GP once it's available next week?
Guess what I did yesterday?
Ah,
there it is.
so it's ready now. All right.
It is. There is a beta build ready right now.
Awesome.
It's called beta basically because it's based on the ISV drop that we got and not on the final release code, which is not available yet.
Okay.
So, but I'm ready.
Okay. Fantastic. Thank you.
So is that fast enough response for you?
I think so. Yes.
Before it releases?
Yep.
Well, that's actually the point of the ISV drop, but almost no ISVs ever get it as quickly as what you've done.
Cool. Well,
Thank you very much.
Yeah. Thanks, David.
My pleasure. You guys have a good day. I'm going to go and get some sleep soon.
Sounds good. Thanks, everyone. Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.